Okay, everybody, welcome to our show. Our show is called the Treble Trio. We're represented by Red Devil in San Diego. Here I got Bryce, and here also I got Tony. Okay, Bryce, introducing yourself.
Nice to meet you. I'm Bryce.
Yeah,
Nice
Bryce,
to meet you.
Yeah. So why you like United?
Uh,
how long have you been supporting United?
Yeah, so I've been supporting United really since I was a child. Growing up here in San Diego, California, there wasn't in the '90s. There wasn't a lot on TV, but if there was, it was always Manchester United because they were really the best team in England at the time. But it was quick flashes here and there. Didn't really get to see much, and then it got a lot more exacerbated when I went to university, and I had a good friend in my first year who. He was obsessed with watching United, so he would talk about them every single day, and literally every day I'd be hearing stories about Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs and Wayne Rooney and the team at the time and such, and basically kind of wore me down. And eventually I agreed to watch, and that kind of continued on since we had a lot more access in the 2010s onwards, and I've been watching ever since, going to every single game, watching at least locally here. I've been able to go to England a few times as well, and it really is a religion for us over here.
So it's a really amazing to see because you as American, because we all know American, they're famous by the NBA or baseball or hockey. So you choose football. Okay, I call football.
Yeah, of course.
People here call soccer. So you like United as American. It's
yes.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. In the United States, you do have the big four of these other more American sports, basically. But I think football is it's the global game. It's a beautiful game, and I've been able to build and have so many connections, friendships, and relationships just from being a fan of this sport. If you come to a place like this and just kick a ball around, someone's going to walk up and want to play with you, and it's likely they're from a different walk of life, different nationality, and so it's a great connector, and it's like I said, one thing that really helps define me.
Yeah, that's cool. So for me, I watched Manchester United game since 2002. So when the World Cup go to Asia, that's also the first time China go to the World Cup.
That's true too, huh? Yeah.
And then I fall in love with David Beckham, what has a boy, and United used to play attacking football. It's really amazing to see when Fergie charging the team. We play against Arsenal. We have that kind of rivalry. That's super amazing. Back in the good old days. So speaking about the British football, we have Tony British here. Tony, tell me your story about the Manchester United. How long you been supporting United and why?
Yeah, well, hello everybody. I fell in love with Manchester United, like many people in England. They were on TV in black and white in Europe, playing in the European Cup, and they played all over England. I was living in London at the time. I was able to get to see them play. I went to Tottenham with my older brother, round about 66, 67. It was like nothing else. I mean, there were superstars playing in every team back then, but nobody had what we had at Manchester United, which became 3 Ballon d'Ors in the same team. You didn't really know it at the time because before the European Cup, it was only Dennis Law as the European Footballer of the Year. But Bobby Charlton got it for 66 World Cup, and Georgie got it for 68 European Final. What a privilege to see those 3 men on the same field. They didn't play with the greatest players towards the end. I think United should have brought in more personnel to support, particularly George, who was the youngest of the 3. And after the European Cup final in '68, Matt Busby had gone and the team was starting to dismantle. And then, of course, we lost George in '73. He left. So I had to pay my attentions to Willie Morgan, who was George's kind of protege or replacement type player. But Willie became captain of Manchester United, and that team went down in the 2nd division, which you never think is going to possibly happen. But I followed United all the way through the glamour years into the 2nd division, losing to Southampton in an FA Cup final, and waiting years to see them win something actually. And of course, when you don't win very often, you either lose interest or you become more of a fanatic, if you like. And my friends were all older than me, and they taught me the religion of Manchester United. You don't just go to the first team games. You go and watch the reserves. You go and watch the youth team. You go to testimonials. I don't know if anyone knows what testimonials are. I can explain that if you're not sure. But we went to all games. I saw George Best play for different teams because I love George Best. But you you just became obsessed with it. I used to keep scrapbooks, and I used to cut all the pictures out of the magazines, and I had a bedroom just full of books, posters, bedspreads, table lamps, everything United. I didn't know anything else really, and of course everyone remembers their first time going to Old Trafford. I think that has lived with me for the rest of my life. There'll never be a moment like that for me. I'm wearing a Ollie Gunner shirt today because Andy asked me what he thought was the most important United moment or goal, and surely it has to be the treble win Ollie goal for what it represents for the team.
Okay.
But that's my story.
Thank you, Tony. That was a good story. And on this day, being a Manchester United fan is really tougher because we have to wait 3 whole weeks into next game. So right now we still have 2 more weeks to wait. But also recently we have a lot of things going on. And the first thing first, I see we can see that Casemiro already said he's gonna leave the club 100% at the end of the season. And right now we have the rumor saying Manchester United have the contact with Andrew Tonali agent already. For me, Tonali is wherever we take. Whatever like the prices, doesn't matter. He have the betting issue back in the day, but doesn't matter for me. If Casemiro leave, Sandro Tonali is wherever we take. What do you guys think about it? Price.
So yes, he does have the betting issues from back when. Is that still going to be an issue? I don't know. That's not for me to know, I guess. He is a quality player, though. I think Newcastle have players that want to leave between him and Bruno Guimaraes. I think also wants to go. It's kind of a race of who can get out first. There's other players that I think Anderson, Wharton as well, at Forest and Crystal Palace respectively. I think we'll see who comes in, but it's difficult because of the player who Casemiro is. I mean, we all know he has 5 Champions Leagues to his game in his trophy cabinet, but he is a defensive midfielder first and foremost, but he also has this incredible attacking threat as well. He really knows how to play in the opponent's box. He's also a leader. A lot of the players look up to him and will listen to what he has to say to them. And he really encourages everyone who comes in too. I heard that when he struggled last year and was out of the team, he was even giving tips to the players who was taking his position. So he brings more than just a singular position. So it's going to be a really, really difficult task to replace him. So it really then looks to, I think you have to look, like you said, moving forward of how then do you want the midfield to play? You're probably going to need to partner someone ideally next to Kobe, with Bruno probably in front of them. So probably someone who's focused more as a defensive type midfielder. You will be losing that attacking threat probably, but you probably can't find someone who has all those same attributes. But hopefully if you can have someone who is very solid next to Kobe, then that can maybe get us even more goals out of our attacking plays that we already have.
Yeah. What do you think, about midfield?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at these 100% as 100% because things can change. When Casemiro is walked out the door and got on an aeroplane, then I'll believe it. I wish he would stay for another year for the record. And maybe there's a change of heart somewhere down the line. But we have to move on regardless. We have to have new players. I just sort of thinking back, my memory bank, United used to break the world record signings or close to it over the years. There's been some significant signings. One has to be Brian Robson, the manager of West Bromwich Albion, moved to Manchester United, and he said that Robbo is gold, he's pure gold, and it was said at the time, pay whatever it takes. And it's probably one of the best bit of business Manchester United's ever done, because we had a number 7, we had a captain, we had a player that had no ego, but he was good for the dressing room. He was a wonderful player. My concern with breaking record signings, if that's possible, is ego. We've never really signed an Italian player of any note. I hope if Tonali is the sort of player that can fit into the dressing room, like maybe he's done at Newcastle, then he would be a good attribute. But for me, if we've only got a budget of around 200 million, I'm not sure we want to spend half of it on one player. Yeah. There are some great players out there. What Arsenal did with Declan Rice shows that you can build a team around these type of players. We would have loved Declan Rice, I think. But when you lose Casemiro, you lose a senior player. You lose a player that the players look up to. And I think that we need a statement signing. We need people to go to Old Trafford next season thinking we can win the league.
Yeah.
And maybe that Tonali, who knows, even buy Bruno as well if you've got the money. We did it with Joe Jordan and Gordon McQueen at Leeds. We bought the pair of them. What's wrong with doing that? If you've got an ambition, buy them both, and then the midfield is done and dusted. But there are other areas of the field that concern me, and if you've got a weakness at left back, for example, you can't overlap and everything else, you're not going to get the ball upfield quickly enough. So there are other issues, in my opinion.
It's true. We still have left back issue. And do you think we need more defender? Since we can see the Elite has been a lot of injury. Martinez, a lot of injury. And Maguire is getting old. It's only the leader of defender that we have. Euro still young, Happen still young. And do you think if any way we can have one more like defender for our squad next season?
Yeah, I mean, I do think the defense comes into play too. I actually think, though, and maybe this is just more optimistic hope than anything, but I think when I address the defense, I think it's like Tony said on the left and right back. I think I'm hopefully okay. You know, again, we hope for the injury record, but I think the center backs will be okay for another season. I mean, Maguire I believe he's signing another contract. You know, I feel bad for De Ligt. It seems like he has a back injury, and those are tough to kind of diagnose, recover from. Back is just kind of a tough spot. Once it goes, it takes time to recover. Martinez is a world-class player when he can be playing. There's distribution of how he can pass through the lines, how he can build up his confidence on the ball. He never gets tackled off of it, and then he comes in, like a leopard, coming in on players too. So he's incredible. So I think the center backs are okay, but Tony was alluding to right there. Luke Shaw for a long time has been a very key part to United's attack, which is a weird thing to say. Yeah. But I think when Luke Shaw was fit and healthy, that's when we got the best out of Rashford. And I think it's because of the overlapping runs. He can, on his best day, could just run up and down that left side of the pitch. Unfortunately, though, his injury has also been, marred or highlighted by his injuries as well. He almost lost his leg really shortly after he joined United, that horrible double leg break. But he still played for a long time. He's actually, obviously, played more games for United this year than any other season he's been here. But we're also seeing he's not quite able to, he's, I think, 31 now. He doesn't quite have the ability to overlap in the same way. So we do need more cover on the left side. Could Delo and Mazraoui stay on the right for another year? Potentially so. But yeah, I think we could address more defenders. Malacia has to be gone. I don't think Diego Leon is really quite physically there yet, as we've probably seen this year. He's not cut in to the team. Amas has, I think, had a good loan, but I don't know if he's going to be fully in the picture from the coaching's perspective next year. So left back is my choice.
Okay, so do you guys saw in the international friendly game recently? Rashford have amazing performance. And Wembley when they play like Uruguay. And right now it looks like that Barcelona don't want to pay the cost to buy Rashford. There's potential. I don't want to say high, but there's a potential. Rashford gonna come back to United. If so, would you guys like to see playing for United again in that season? Bryce? Or Tony?
Start with Tony on this one.
Well, I was going to just finish off regarding the back four. I don't trust Luke Shaw, I don't trust Harry Maguire, I don't trust Martinez, no more than I was jumping for joy when Evans came back from Leicester City at whatever age he was. We don't need to be that kind of football club. We need better doctors, we need better people giving advice with these players. If the players can be diagnosed quicker, more accurately, we won't be wasting another season on some of these players. For Luke Shaw, I think we should say thank you so much, goodbye. There's no room for sentiment in football. He's had a wonderful career. He's been lucky that he was even able to get past the injury. So moving on, watching the international game, I couldn't help but being cynical seeing Rashford dancing down the wing. He's obviously looking for a contract, and I wish he'd have worked as hard as that in a red shirt towards the end of his career. Barcelona don't need him, from what I gather, and he's just another player at Barcelona. He can't pretend to be anything else, even if he does own a private jet. He's just another player at Barcelona, and he won't hold them to ransom. And quite honestly, he's not a glamour player for Barcelona. They won't sell many posters of him. So, you know, I think we could end up getting him back, quite honestly, and then having to do a deal with him. I know Sancho got injured. Not sure what's going to happen with him. But, you know, the international break is always interesting. Aidan Heaven scored for the under-20s. That was nice. You know, and it's interesting to see our players in different shirts. You know, like Ahmad, I like watching him.
JJ played for the under-17s.
Yeah.
JJ got another game in.
And Lawrence had a wonderful save yesterday.
Yeah.
Play against United.
Yeah, and you know, to see Casemiro playing against France, it's fascinating. I was wondering why he got to see the basketball in Orlando, and of course here he is in America, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lemons played well against the USA as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes these breaks are just a distraction, but you really hope with the future that these players are going to do well for their countries, because we're going to see a lot of them in the next few months.
Ugarte got 2 yellow cards and didn't get
Oh
sent
yeah,
off.
he did send.
Ugarte looked aggressive in the Uruguay shirt.
Oh yeah, and Wembley.
Yeah. And as for Uruguay, you know, pulling shirts and cheating, it's ironic that they got the last minute penalty, but there you go.
Tony, would you give Ugarte one more season, or are you done?
He's not eating raw meat.
No,
he's not a typical Uruguayan. He's not a South American beast. I mean, they give all these players nicknames.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
do.
they all have nicknames of sort of masculine, macho things.
Matador.
But, you know, Rio Ferdinand surprised Veron the other day, and he looked like, you know, it looked like he was scared out of his mind when Ferdinand grabbed him from behind. And I thought he was, you know, the little witch was his nickname. Yeah, it's fascinating to see. We've got another one here in America. I think Mexico are coming over, and with the Portuguese team are coming.
Yeah, they drew yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another game in the US.
Yeah.
So we're able to see all of this football, and it's really good to see. You know, they're in America again. These players, you know, Bruno Fernandes was in the Azteca last night.
Yeah.
Somebody fell to their death. Rest in peace. Not a great start to the new stadium. I wondered if that happened in Wembley, the game would probably be abandoned, to be honest. But there we are.
Okay, speaking about the Bruno Fernandes, and there's a rumors going on, like that say that Bruno could leave because he almost left last summer. And Amorim was the one who hold this transfer, and he didn't leave.
Yeah.
He do have complaint. At the early of this season, he talked to the Portuguese the media. Like I say, he was kind of like disappointed why the club won sell him. And for me right now, we couldn't lose Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in the same transfer. Those two, we couldn't lose both. We lose one, it's already a big loss. We can't lose two of them.
Yeah.
So for me, Bruno, he need to stay at least 1 or 2 more seasons. He's the one like most important player right now. I don't care all those other people speaking the like putting the criticizing to Bruno about his complaining or his attitude, but he's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
No one can create more chance than Bruno in this season in Premier League. He was the top player. So what do you think, Tony? I mean, there's a offer the PSG you want to buy Bruno. We also know Bruno have the release clause, right? If they really use that, this could be really dangerous for us. What do you think about this, Tony?
I think there's unfinished business for Bruno. As good as his career at Old Trafford has been, there's missing parts to his finale, if you like. He would have loved to have won the league.
2 European losses.
European final losses. Not the greatest on your resume, but I think Man United should be blamed for not supporting Bruno. They've left him as the sole runner. They've hung on his penalties. The goals he scored have kept us alive in so many matches. But you know, when you get a great player like Bruno, you should be complimenting him with other players around him. So for me, I would think he'll do another season. If the Michael Carrick project goes ahead, a lot of players might be excited by that. You've got a guy that knows the club, understands the way that the club should be, who's won many trophies, and Carrick has won so many more trophies
Yeah.
than any of these lads at Old Trafford today. But I think for me, unfinished business for Bruno. One more year, and that's obviously if you lose him, you've got to make another statement signing. So I wouldn't want to lose him this year under any terms.
What do you think about Bryce? About this?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked off camera plenty, Tony and I, about Bruno, and it's interesting. I think sometimes it's interesting for Tony to fully get my take on him because as Tony's obviously watched for decades longer than I have, but the intensity of me watching has really started with Sir Alex Ferguson's last season.
Yeah.
So I know the history. I'm a history. I know the stories. I love the stories. I've learned all of them and continue to try to learn as much as I can. But when I come and love the club week in, week out, watching every single game and knowing it just because of the time I was born and where I was born.
Yep.
I get one season of a title, and then what we've had since, which has been this interesting, change, this commercial success, this weirdness on the pitch, no titles, floundering up and down, staying around the Champions League, but then dropping out. We know we can talk about all the coaches, everything. So Bruno is my Brian Robson. Bruno is my George Best. As far as and let me back up. George Best is my absolute favorite player. I adore him. I watch clips of him. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, as far as the player I've been able to see and represent the club, and as we've seen, and getting 100 goals and 100 assists in 318 matches, that's quicker than Messi did at Barcelona or Ronaldo at Real Madrid. This player who truly seems to get the club, understand the club, come in at a time where we were lacking some creativity, and just be this driving force. We look at last season where we finished, 15th, lost in the Europa League final. What would we have been last season without Bruno? This season he has 16 assists going forward. It's just he is a player that I've never seen before. He is the Cantona that came into the 90s. But again, I was alive for the 90s. I wasn't able to watch just because of my age. So he's a player that it's truly a generational talent that is for this team in this decade.
Yeah.
I think Bruno will shape the United of the 2020s.
Yeah.
When we look back in another decade or so.
Well, you'd hope that the academy boys are watching the first team, and admiring what Bruno does, how important he is to the team, and hoping that maybe that someone in the academy will come along and be the next Bruno.
Yeah,
true.
When you study a player, you want to become him.
That's a really good player. Okay, let's talk about a manager. So it looks like right now it's going more and more the possibility that Carrick project is gonna be stay. He probably gonna be our permanent manager for the next season. For me, it's good. He have a really good record, like the managing record. He only lost one game. And he bring us to the top 3 right now. Very safe player. We can say we are very safely to say we're going to the Champions League next season if we doing well at the rest of the 7 or 8 games. So, what do you think about the Carrick? Are you happy for that, Tony?
Well, we've had a little bit of success recently, to give us some excitement. We've had a glimmer of hope because of Michael. Whatever happens, we have to say he's done a fantastic job, no matter what, whether he gets the job or not. A good manager is somebody that can take a squad of players, utilise them and win football matches, and not always be the best team on the field, just find a way to score. I was watching the Legends play this weekend and was admiring Antonio Valencia running down the wing. Overweight, but skillful, quick. Berbatov looks like he could play in today's team, incredible. But Fergie had players like Antonio Valencia, and even thinking about Ashley Young. They won trophies. They weren't the greatest players, but Fergie got the best out of them, and he made them winners. And if you look at the loss to Newcastle, we didn't deserve that. But if Ferguson was the manager, we would have probably won. And also, if Ferguson was the manager against Tottenham in the Europa final, we would have definitely won. So the manager is really important because Amorim decided he wasn't going to change even for a European final, even allowing Tottenham to win their first European trophy since '63. So you have to have someone who's not stubborn, who will make changes for the better of the team. And I believe that Michael Carrick is that man. I don't think there's an ego there. I think he just wants the team to do well. Some of these European coaches that are being touted at the moment, they don't know the DNA of Manchester United. They don't know what the Stretford end wants, the type of football we want. Michael does. But I wouldn't give him a long contract. I'd give him 1 season, to be honest. Why would you give him 3 years if you don't need to?
True. What do you think about that, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Carrick, I think we need to. My big thing is when we are looking at the potential new players that we need to come in and rebuilding of this team, moving forward. You know, from their perspective, they're always going to ask the first question is who's managing me.
Yeah, of course.
So I want that to be resolved and settled quickly.
Yeah.
I really do like what we have seen. You know, as Tony was talking, actually, I was kind of just thinking, you know, what has been my favorite moment of the season, and you know, it's been a bit of a weird season, but there has been some really good highs. You know, under Amram as well. I mean, remember the Liverpool win, winning at Anfield for the first time in about 10 years. That was an incredible time back in October.
The Lyon game last season.
The Lyon game, of course, too. Yeah, but you know, there was that magical time when he first kind of came in with Arsenal and Chelsea or City.
But frankly, all the manager we used to have, they have their game. So there's nothing about the end.
That's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think also, if you're following the news right now,
Yep.
it looks like there might be a decision on Manchester City, the 115 charges.
Fine, high hope.
I'm hearing rumours of 60 points deduction, and I'm also hearing rumours that they might get treated the same as Juventus did,
Yeah.
which could be dropping down 2 divisions,
Then stripped of titles.
and then everybody on the board resigned.
Yeah.
Guardiola, there's talks that he's back with his good lady, and obviously he's lived a very lonely life, I think. What I see.
I don't disagree with that.
I think perhaps a new woman back in his life, he may decide it's time to move on. You know, he's in the rain with a bald head. You know, it's not glamorous for him as a wonderful manager that he's been. But look what implications there are there. You know, Haaland could end up leaving if Guardiola goes. And then you've got people like Semenyo saying, why did I go to City? And then you've got all this where people say Manchester United can't go for the big players because City will get them, Chelsea will get them, they've got more money. But football changes very quickly. And I think that if United do a few things right, they can then be a force back in the Premier League.
I have full confidence. So even though I don't really like Arsenal as a team, but I really appreciate that they're giving enough time to their manager Arteta. They trust his project. He trusts his his tactic, everything. We give him 6 years already, right? And right now they finally have the chance to win the Premier League. So even though I don't like the team, 100%, I don't like the team, I don't like the fans, but I really appreciate it. They give it the time to the manager. Like we just Man Utd always say, I will give you the chance and give you the time, give you the patience. And
So any of these managers in the last 12 years you should have given more time to?
I think Oli.
Okay.
We need to give more chance to Oli and Jose Mourinho. Between Mourinho and Pogba, we never like to give in the chance to Pogba. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I was the guy who supported Mourinho all the way. I think he gave us the hope to win the three championships.
Yeah.
Well, he is a winner, but there is a price you pay for winning. That's an
Usually.
unfortunate thing.
Usually.
I mean, it's, you know, everybody loves Sir Alex at Manchester United, but other clubs hated him. The rivalry with Arsene Wenger, he would just go in his head and destroy him. And I think that, you know, they're not going to get that with Michael Carrick. You know, it's not that kind of manager.
No, he just deflects everything that comes at him.
But I think you're going to get more fairness with Michael Carrick in the decision making. You know, when Mourinho put Paul Pogba on the bench at Anfield, it was all, you know, punishments. You know, and I don't like that. You don't punish the club.
No.
Not the player, yes, but not the club. And you shouldn't have to park the bus because certain players can't play. You know.
Yeah, sure. It's a lot of things. It's like before we have a lot of things going on our dressing. There's a lot of chaos in our dressing.
Yeah.
But we're not the only football club to have problems. And, you know, we, as United fans, we only look at ourselves. But, I mean, going back to Arsenal, you know, Arteta, for example, he's on a promise. I mean, if he wins something, he'll get a very long contract. And if he doesn't win anything this season, surely he's gone. You can't say, oh, give me another year when you're in the position of winning the treble. Arsenal fans are very impatient, and they're already struggling.
I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, the run in though, they really do have to win. I think they have a home game against Burnley, home game against Fulham, home game against West Ham too. But the City are 9 points behind with a game in hand, so I mean, anything could happen.
Welcome
but
to the Premier League. Manchester United had this every year.
True.
Yeah.
And I remember complaining that we have to play all these big games every single week. And people would say, you want sympathy for being a team winning everything. But the point is that the pressure will get to Arsenal that they have to win these games, because you've got this Man City juggernaut that doesn't look like it's going to lose a match.
We're seeing it basically on the other side of the table with Tottenham too, with Igor Tudor's leaving today now.
I heard that.
Or the other
He's
day.
gone today. He's going to leave. And Sean Dyche is always in the wings. He's the new Sam Allardyce.
Well, that's the one thing I think when I look at the relegation side of things, just like we're kind of talking about, Arsenal there, it's which club has the most turmoil kind of going on around it. West Ham aren't.
Take your pick.
Yeah, West Ham aren't a great team, but they seem a little bit steadier. Tottenham are seeming to have issues coming out, of every cabinet of every drawer.
Yeah.
So even though they are a better team, even though they have better players, even though they have more history, and they are literally the Europa League title holders right now, they seem a little bit nervier to me.
Well, you've got
see what happens from there.
people like David Moyes has steadied Everton, right?
Yeah.
And West Ham would be very glad of David Moyes right now.
Yeah.
But you do need a manager that is going to take you to the very last game of the season.
Yeah.
And what's going on with Spurs is that they're going to have a new man in charge
That's really
who hasn't got the dressing room's confidence.
For 7 games.
That's like chaos for their manager.
I would be very worried if I was a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
West Ham they're a little bit more settled. Forest are a little bit more settled. It's just everything around Tottenham looks to be a spark away from being a flame. So I don't know.
Okay, let's
Take us home.
let's talk about our team. So our team right now recently have to make a decision. Not a season ticket holder have to give their seats out because they want to make our Old Trafford like a VIP experience, like VIP experience in the season started. And they ask all those season ticket holders give you your seat out, and we give you different seats but raise the price. So I don't think that's really good for our fans. So I, as a British, Tony, can you tell me what you think about this decision made by the surgeon?
Well, when Matt Busby was in charge, I know it's a long time ago, but you have to go with the history of the club. The factory workers would work Saturday morning and then come straight to Old Trafford to watch United play. And it was a working class audience. It was people literally coming straight from work. It was a local fan base. It was made up of people from Manchester. And they went to United one week and City the next, or they went to see the reserves play. But back in those days, there was this loyalty to the club. And the club always had affordable prices at Old Trafford. It was always cheap to go and watch United play. I remember being very boastful about, being able to go and watch them play for, $1.50 or whatever, Old Trafford as a junior. The programme was a couple of pence, and you could go there on schoolboy money. You could do like a paper round or a milk round or some sort of a secondary job between school and go and watch United. All you wanted was a ticket for the game, a programme, a hot drink, and enough money to get you home. That was the plan. That was your northern fan back in the day. Get to the game at all costs. And it's only been recently that prices have started gouging the fans. It's not a long time ago. And what United would say is that all clubs are now doing this business model. It's not just United doing it. But I don't defend it as a fan. I think it's really important that the school kids are able to come and watch the team play. It shouldn't be that it's an exhibition match, so it's cheap to go in and that's your only visit to Old Trafford. You should be able to go to the games. And we should always be one step ahead of Man City, that the local lads want to support the red team, not the blue. So it worries me that if you had a season ticket at Old Trafford, and they're moving you around, they're saying, right, your seat is near the dugout, your seat is near Alex Ferguson's seat, so it's a VIP seat. Well, that's It's a nonsense. It's just a main stand ticket that someone's inherited through their family. It used to be when you died, you couldn't pass on your season ticket. That's the new thing. Back in the day, you could. But I cherish every Manchester United fan that has gone into Old Trafford and been part of our wonderful history. And when I used to go regularly, I was in the old, what they called the cantilever stand, what they built for the World Cup in '66. I was in the middle of that. And the man sat next to me, he started going in 1935. And it was such a privilege to talk to that man about Busby Babes and even before that. That's what the stadium should be full of, is memories. And it should be your granddad and your uncle and your all the family should have been inside Old Trafford. And it worries me that it's so easy for someone in Scandinavia to jump on a plane and come to Old Trafford. He doesn't need to live in Manchester anymore. And it's the same in Liverpool. You know, Scandinavians are taking up the whole of Anfield, it seems, and there's all kinds of tourists at stadiums now. But you should be rewarded. I know with tickets for the European games, if you go to all the European games, you're able to get a ticket for all of the European ways. But if you miss one or miss two, then you don't get the hard tickets. But it's a loyalty pot, and you earn that. I know many people, they don't miss any European games, so they get a ticket for every one of them, and rightly so. But there's no loyalty when it comes to a man in his 70s who's retired, he's living off his pension, and he's got to get enough money together to go to Old Trafford. And those people, to me, the dream was that Old Trafford would be the Wembley of the North, 100,000 people. But what they're talking about now, moving it, knocking it down, turning it into, looks like Billy Smart's circus, really, what they're trying to build there. It makes no sense to me. I'm against it, and I don't want expensive seats at Old Trafford that people can't afford to go.
Well, it's you're right. I mean, sport has changed over time, Tony, and with just the globalization of the world, you also get the globalization of sport a little bit, which can be, it can be a great thing. It's why Andy and I are sitting here talking to you today. A boy from China and a boy from the west coast of America. But at the same time, when we've seen this happen with some of our sports, in the United States as well, but because at the same time, what that does is it turns sport from entertainment. And what I mean by that is, you speak about football as a working class game. It very much was baseball over here, a game that originates from the 1870s and 60s, where people would spend their days, 5 days a week, working in the factories, 12, 13, 14 hours a day just to make some wages and spend it on the weekends to go watch some entertainment, right? It was their ways to, let off some steam, be with some pals, maybe have a pint and watch some sport because the rest of your life was spent in a factory. So it was entertainment, but now it's become a commodity. It's become a product to sell, and that's the negative side of globalization, because it's not just a working man's game to go entertain themselves on the weekend. It is something where, hey, if you do want to attract someone from China or someone from America, maybe I'm a working professional and I have the money to spend because I do want to see this team that I support and watch every weekend. But I have the means that I could then spend more money. And then when you turn this entertainment into a business, that's when you have, that's where you're able to say, oh, well, as a ticket seller, as the owner of this ticket, I want to, owner of the club or whatever you want to put it, whoever's in charge there, you can price it as what you want and then price out the working class individual who's been watching United their whole life and grew up in, M16.
You've got to be careful what you wish for, though,
because
if you're talking about a stadium that has 20,000 more seats, it's going to look pretty lonely on a Tuesday night in the League Cup, Caribou Cup, likes of Grimsby and York at Old Trafford in a 100,000 stadium. I think that there's no problem with there being international fans.
Yeah.
We all live all around the world these days, and we can all fly and get anywhere we want. But we can't have a situation where people can't afford to get a ticket.
Completely, and because also as an international fan, I've been very fortunate to travel to Old Trafford twice for 4 games. When you go, I'm there to see the atmosphere and be a part of it and see what the Mancunians are like there. I'm lucky to join in as well because I do know the songs, I do participate, but I'm very much aware that I'm not a local person when I'm there at the moment. I'm there to relish in it. So I do want the locals to be there. I do want, the person who's, grew up around the street to be in their seat that they've had from their grandfather.
We've always had the Irish fans and the Norwegian fans all coming over since probably the late 50s and 60s, people were coming from all over the place. It was accessible to get to. The reason we've got so many Irish supporters is that you were a boat ride away, and it was possible to get across for the weekend. And Manchester United relish their Irish fans, their Norwegian, Scandinavian fans. They relish them, and now it's Chinese fans, Thai fans,
Well, they need
American fans. It's different now.
Yeah, they need an allocation of a certain amount of seats protected and at a certain price for people who live within a radius of Old Trafford. Or
But
something like that.
I've been fortunate enough to go to places like China and watch Manchester United play, and we've always travelled as a club. We've always been global, trailblazers, and therefore we do have fans in places because we visited those countries. So that we're very proud of, is that we've got fans in Malaysia, for example, because we've played there a few times. We've got fans in South Africa because we've played there a few times. And we must never stop that. That's part of making United the global brand it is. I think it is inevitable in my lifetime that there'll be a stadium that holds 90,000 plus. I think it's going to happen. And if that's the secret sauce that gets you the sponsorship deals, gets you the big money to buy the best players, then who am I to go against it? Because I want to see the best players at Old Trafford. I want it to remain the theatre of dreams. But Old Trafford's very tired as a stadium, and it does need a lot of work. I still love it.